In the annals of crime, few mysteries rival the silence of the Gardner Museum. It stands as the largest unsolved property theft in the history of the world. Welcome to a Mastermind Dossier investigation into a $500 million cold case. 13 masterpieces were stolen, vanishing into the criminal underworld without a trace. The date was March 18, 1990, hours after St. Patrick's Day celebrations ended. Boston was asleep, hungover from the festivities, leaving the streets dangerously empty. A red Dodge Daytona pulled up to the museum's side entrance on Palace Road. Inside sat two men disguised as Boston police officers, waiting for the perfect moment. Their disguises were low-tech, relying on fake mustaches and confidence rather than gadgets. They focused on the employee entrance, the weak point of the Venetian-style fortress. Inside, 23-year-old Rick Abath manned the watch, a musician untrained for a heist. Abath glanced at the security monitor and saw two uniforms standing at the door. The intercom buzzed, and a voice demanded entry, citing a disturbance in the courtyard. Museum protocol strictly forbade opening the door, but the uniform commanded obedience. In a fateful split-second decision, Abath buzzed the strangers into the secure facility. The thieves entered the security trap, immediately dominating the small, enclosed space. The taller figure loomed over Abath, barking orders to step away from the desk. Abath stepped away from the panic button, severing his only link to the police. The intruder claimed Abath looked familiar, suggesting there was a warrant for his arrest. Confused and naive, Abath stepped out from behind the counter to explain himself. The trap snapped shut as handcuffs were drawn from the fake officer's belt. He was spun around and cuffed before he could process the deception. Moments later, the second guard, Randy Heston, arrived at the security station. Heston was immediately ambushed, joining his partner in captivity. The leader looked at them and calmly announced, "Gentlemen, this is a robbery." They produced rolls of duct tape, a primitive tool for a high-stakes crime. The guards were blindfolded with tape, plunging them into total darkness. Helpless, the two men were marched down into the museum's damp basement. Abath was handcuffed to a steam pipe, left to wonder if he would survive. Heston was secured in a separate area, ensuring neither could help the other. The thieves ascended the stairs, the museum now their private playground. They headed straight for the Dutch room, home to the museum's greatest treasures. Motion detectors silently tracked their footsteps, recording a crime in progress. Their target was Rembrandt's Storm on the Sea of Galilee, his only seascape. They struggled with the heavy frame, unable to detach it from the security bolts. Frustrated, they smashed the frame onto the marble floor, shattering the protective glass. One thief drew a box cutter, preparing to commit an act of artistic murder. He sliced through the canvas, jaggedly cutting the masterpiece from its stretcher. The painting was ripped free, leaving behind shreds of history on the wood. They abandoned the broken frame on the floor, a golden skeleton in the dark. Next, they attacked a lady and gentleman in black, another Rembrandt treasure. Again, the blade did its work, destroying the edges to free the image. They moved to Vermeer's The Concert, one of only 36 known Vermeers. This small, priceless work was snatched from the wall with brutal efficiency. A landscape by Govert Flinck was also taken, perhaps mistaken for a Rembrandt. The thieves rolled the brittle, centuries-old canvases like cheap posters. Chips of paint fell to the floor, irreversible damage occurring with every roll. Leaving the Dutch room, they navigated to the narrow, short gallery. They spotted a tiny Rembrandt etching, a self-portrait the size of a stamp. It was small enough to slide directly into a pocket, an afterthought of theft. They turned their attention to 5 drawings by Edgar Degas. Sketches of horses and jockeys were pulled down, adding volume to their haul. Descending to the first floor, they entered the Blue Room. Edouard Manet's Chez Tortoni sat waiting on a table near the door. They took the painting, but left its frame sitting casually on a chair. In a strange twist, they grabbed an ancient Chinese bronze beaker. They attempted to unscrew a Napoleonic eagle finial from a flagpole. Struggling with the screws, they abandoned the flag but took the eagle. The loot was gathered, a hoard worth $500 million. 81 minutes had passed, an eternity for a museum robbery. They carried their spoils to the side door, making 2 trips to the car. The door opened, letting the cool Boston night air into the crime scene. The trunk was loaded with the rolled-up history of Western art. The red car faded into the darkness, leaving a hollow shell behind. Silence reclaimed the museum, but the spirit of the place was broken. In the basement, the guards waited in terror for a relief that wouldn't come. The sun rose over Boston, revealing no outward signs of the tragedy. At 8 o'clock a.m., the morning security shift arrived to lock doors. Real police were called, banging on the glass to get a response. They breached the entrance, finding the security desk abandoned. A sweep of the building led them to the basement's depths. The guards were discovered and freed, shaken but alive. Investigators ascended to the galleries and froze at the sight. The floor was a sea of broken glass, crunching under their shoes. Empty frames hung like open wounds on the damask walls. The FBI took jurisdiction, initiating a global manhunt. Forensics teams dusted every inch for fingerprints or DNA. But the scene was frustratingly clean. The thieves had been careful. Media descended on the museum, broadcasting the loss to the world. Headlines screamed the heist of the century, shocking the public. Rick Abarth faced intense scrutiny during endless interrogations. Motion sensor logs revealed unexplained movement before the thieves arrived. Abarth had briefly opened the side door earlier that night, a suspicious detail. Was it a signal, or just a guard breaking rules for fresh air? Despite suspicions, no evidence linked Abarth to the crime, and he walked free. The investigation pivoted to the notorious Boston Mafia. Agents scoured the underworld, looking for anyone trying to fence a masterpiece. Whitey Bulger, the city's crime lord, was a prime suspect initially. But Bulger was reportedly furious, insulted that a heist occurred on his turf. Focus shifted to Carmelo Merlino and his crew at TRC Auto Body. The FBI inserted informants, hoping to catch Merlino discussing the art. Merlino bragged about access to the paintings, but it was just talk. Associate David Turner bore a haunting resemblance to the police sketches. The sketches were generic, leading to thousands of useless tips. Agents dug up backyards and basements on rumors and whispers. Walls were smashed in search of hidden compartments. Every lead ended the same way, with nothing. Years later, the trail led to Connecticut mobster Robert Gentile. The FBI raided Gentile's home, convinced he held the key. They found a handwritten list of the stolen art and their black market prices. Gentile denied everything, claiming the list was a plant or a fantasy. He took his secrets to the grave in 2021, leaving investigators empty-handed. The legendary art thief Miles Connor claimed he masterminded the plan. But Connor was locked in federal prison when the heist went down. Bobby Donati was rumored to have organized it to leverage a friend's release. Donati was brutally murdered shortly after, silencing him forever. The suspect list became a graveyard. Everyone who knew the truth died. Back at the museum, the empty frames remain as a permanent vigil. Isabella Stewart Gardner's will forbids changing the arrangement. So the frames hang empty, a poignant reminder of what was lost. A $10 million reward remains on the table for their safe return. The tip line rings occasionally, but the paintings never surface. Experts fear the canvases are rotting in a humid basement somewhere. Theories place the art in Ireland, France, or a Saudi yacht. Some believe they were used as collateral in drug deals, trading hands for decades. The texture, the brushstrokes, the genius of Rembrandt is fading from memory. The museum's garden still blooms, a contrast to the void on the walls. Security today is state-of-the-art, but it cannot undo the past. The two fake cops accomplished the impossible and simply vanished. The void left by Vermeer's The Concert is a black hole in art history. Private investigators and journalists continue to hunt for the prize. Is the treasure sitting in an attic, unrecognized by a grandchild? We close this Mastermind Dossier file, but the investigation is never over. The case remains open, active, and frustratingly unsolved. Until the art returns, the ghosts of 1990 will haunt these halls. This has been a Mastermind Dossier production. Subscribe to Mastermind Dossier to uncover more history's greatest secrets. The palace sleeps, waiting for its treasures to come home. We wait and we watch.